Now, let me continue on the policy on the soft side of infrastructure related to trade, and I will call on Secretary General Kituyi. Maybe you can talk to us about some of the investment strategies and policy leaderships which is required to fast-track regional and trade-related investment in infrastructure, sir. Just go ahead and speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coordinator. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kituyi. I'm Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Mr. Moderator, my sense of what are the challenges in terms of strategy, investment strategy, and policy leadership is founded in a sense of what is the challenge to be confronted. And a number of challenges. First of all, as we all know, the SDG era, infrastructure investment requires an annual expenditure of $93 billion in Africa. Currently, what's provided is $45 billion every year. How do we find the additional resources? So I think that will be one of the main challenges for any leaders looking to approximate the goals that they're setting for themselves this week. Secondly, the nature of FDI flows. We have noticed that while there has been a very dramatic expansion in FDI flows, much of this statistic is driven by events in East and Southeast Asia. Africa's share of FDI has remained almost flat at 4.4% globally, at $54 billion. The good news is that there is substantial interest in investment in infrastructure. Just in the period between 2001 and 2012 alone, flows investments, cross-border investments into transport, communication, and storage infrastructure has grown more than 4 times, from 8 billion to 34 billion US dollars. So this shows a very important direction of possibility. But there is also something about the character of investments, that while most non-African investment has gone into mergers and acquisitions, the main driver of greenfield investments in infrastructure in Africa has been intra-African investment, accounting for 76% of the total in terms of value and 68% in terms of number of projects. So that we say one of the first things to look at is there's a traditional tendency to look across the oceans for sources of financing. But the reality is showing that the gaze should be first near home, in the neighborhood. We've seen how some countries like South Africa and Kenya have become important cross-border investors, particularly in communications infrastructure in the neighbor, across the continent. Another thing that's important is now I'm homing in on, if this is the challenge, what are the responsibilities of leadership? First of all, a coherence of policy at home. That many times you find ministries responsible for infrastructure in perpetual competition with the ministries responsible for agriculture or education. There is a deficit of political drive in integrating a vision that there is a coherence between our goals in agriculture and in infrastructure investment. Secondly, a regional coherence in policy. In an earlier life, I was a minister, and I had the experience that you could agree on what could be done, but you have varied priorities across borders. If you have an infrastructure project with varied levels of priority, it will remain incomplete. If Rwanda wants a standard railway gauge to the sea, and Uganda is not giving it particular attention, there can be a section from Kigali to the border, but that doesn't mean anything until Uganda also raises the interest. I've seen some of these in what's called the LAPSET corridor from East African coast to South Sudan. So the need for kind of locking in the steps, ambition, and prioritization between countries in a region is important. 3, I saw these when we were at the signing of the tripartite agreement in Sharm el-Sheikh a few months ago. A coherence in belief that we have to sacrifice certain things we have held dearly as countries in order to be able to work at the same pace. How do I mean this? There are some countries where the political elite are dominated by merchant capitalists. Their interest is to reduce the cumbersome bureaucracy in importing goods they sell at a profit. There are other countries which have a stronger industrial base. Their interest is how to maximize quality improvements in the industry. Now, if you go into regional integration, the merchants want lower tariffs. The industrialists want higher industrial tariffs. And they don't identify this the way it is. So a sense of coherence about the role of investing in competitiveness, so that there's a synergy between investment and trade liberalization. There's a synergy between improved infrastructure and value addition for export trade out of the regions. Is going to be an important consideration if we are going to realize this. I'm sorry I've spoken for so long, but I think finally, we have seen how disruptive politics takes away resources that belong to economic integration. Across the Sahel, we've seen that. In parts of Central Africa, we've seen that. In the Horn of Africa, we've seen that. So it's very, very important, however good on paper, the infrastructure drive, the ambition for regional integration, the renaissance of Africa, the sense of 2063 as goals, as exciting as they are, inadequate investment in political stability and predictable political conditions undermines even the prospects of keeping the best brains working on economic issues, and they are sent into security-related challenges. Thank you.
Very good food for thoughts here. I think there will be follow-up questions, I'm sure, on the challenges that you outlined.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.